Nobody had visited planet RX-2841 in 40 years. The last expedition ended with 17 dead researchers and a permanent quarantine order. Now, as the shuttle descended through thick orange clouds, Dr. Lena Ward wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. The research station floated high above the planet's surface. It was called Horizon 7, a ring of metal and glass where scientists watched the world below but never touched it. Lena pressed her face against the window as the shuttle docked. She could see forests stretching across the continents, glowing faintly with strange light. Somewhere down there lived the Shadowfangs, the most dangerous predators in the known galaxy. A tall figure waited for her at the airlock. Senior researcher Quiller had blue skin and 4 arms that moved constantly as he spoke. His yellow eyes studied Lena with obvious doubt. "You are smaller than I expected," he said. "Humans are small." "We manage," Lena replied. Quiller led her through white corridors filled with screens and equipment. Other researchers stopped to stare. Lena saw insectoid creatures with shiny shells, floating beings made of gas, and walking plants with eyes on their leaves. She was the first human to ever work on Horizon 7. "I must explain the rules," Quiller said as they walked. "There is only one rule, really. We observe, we do not touch, we do not land, we do not make contact." "Ever?" "Never," Quiller stopped at a large door. "The director will tell you why." The door opened into a dark room filled with floating screens. Each screen showed footage of the planet below. In the center sat Director Pell, a Morvathi with a hard shell and clicking mandibles. He looked like a giant beetle wearing a uniform. "Dr. Ward," Pell said, his voice was cold. "You wanted to study Shadowfangs. Now you will understand why no one does." He waved a limb and the screens changed. Lena watched recording after recording of disaster, research teams landing on the planet, scientists setting up equipment, and then the Shadowfangs came. They were huge, 3 meters tall, covered in dark fur that seemed to eat the light. Spines ran down their backs, dripping with venom. Their eyes glowed red like hot coals. They moved fast, too fast, hunting in packs that worked together like a single mind. Every expedition ended the same way. Death, fast and complete. 47 attempts, Pell said. 12 different species tried. To make contact, all failed. The Valorians lost 100 researchers. The Toraki sent their best warriors. None returned. Lena watched the final recording, a team running for their shuttle, Shadowfangs surrounding them, then nothing but screams. "Humans have been spacefaring for 2 centuries, Pell continued. "You have not seen what we have seen. You do not understand the danger." "Maybe," Lena said quietly, "but I'd like to review the older recordings, all of them." Pell's mandibles clicked in surprise. "Why?" "Because I saw something." Quiller and Pell exchanged looks. Finally, the director nodded. "Very well, but you will observe from here. If you try to land, I will stop you myself." That night, Lena sat alone in a small room surrounded by screens. She watched every recording in the archive, years of footage, decades of death. Her eyes grew tired, but she kept watching. Something was wrong with the picture, something everyone else had missed. The Shadowfangs were deadly, yes, but they didn't hunt randomly. They didn't attack without reason. Every single time, the expeditions had done something first. Landed in certain areas, set up camps in specific locations, made noise in particular directions. Lena pulled up geographical data and overlaid it with attack patterns. Her heart began to beat faster. The expeditions landed near underground caves, deep caves that never appeared on the surveys because they were hidden beneath rock and soil. She checked the thermal scans. The caves were warm, much warmer than the surrounding ground. "Nesting sites," Lena whispered. The Shadowfangs weren't mindless killers. They were parents protecting their young. Every expedition had accidentally threatened their children. Every attack was defense, not aggression. Lena leaned back in her chair. On Earth, humans had learned this lesson long ago. You don't camp near a bear den. You don't walk between a mother elephant and her calf. You don't corner a wolf protecting its pack. These creatures weren't monsters. They were just doing what any parent would do. She looked at the planet spinning slowly below the station. Somewhere down there, Shadowfang mothers were curled around their cubs, keeping them warm, keeping them safe from the strange beings that kept falling from the sky. Lena began writing her report. The council would not like what she had to say, but she knew she was right. The key to the Shadowfangs wasn't weapons or armor or speed. It was respect. It was understanding. It was the one thing humans had learned through thousands of years of living alongside predators. Sometimes the deadliest creatures just needed someone who wouldn't threaten their families. She saved her work and looked out the window at the stars. Tomorrow she would present her findings. Tomorrow everything would change. For the first time in 40 years, someone finally understood the Shadowfangs. Now she just had to convince everyone else. The council chamber fell silent when Lena finished speaking. 12 researchers sat around a curved table, their alien faces showing different versions of the same emotion: disbelief. Quiller spoke first. His forearms were folded tight against his chest. "You are suggesting that centuries of research were wrong, that every scientist before you was blind." "Not blind," Lena said, "just looking at the wrong thing." Director Pell clicked his mandibles. "The Shadowfangs killed hundreds of our people. You watched the recordings. How can you call that defense?" "Because every attack happened near nesting grounds." Lena pointed at the map floating in the air between them. "Look at the pattern. Every expedition landed within 2 kilometers of underground caves, every single one." "Coincidence?" said a voice from the corner. Lena turned. A large figure sat in the shadows, watching her with 4 yellow eyes. He was Toraki, a species known for their strength and their scars. This one had plenty of both. Deep marks ran across his face and arms, souvenirs from battles Lena could not imagine. "Chief Security Officer Bren," Director Pell said. "He was assigned to this station after the last incident." Bren stood. He was nearly 2 meters tall, with gray skin like stone and muscles that moved like cables under his flesh. He walked toward Lena, stopping close enough that she could smell the metal of his weapons. "The Toraki sent 300 warriors to that planet," he said. "The best we had. They knew how to fight, they knew how to kill. None of them came back." "They weren't trying to make friends," Lena replied. "They were trying to conquer." Bren laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Friends, with those things, you humans are stranger than I thought." "Maybe," Lena stood her ground. "But on Earth, we learned something your people never did. Sometimes the best way to survive is not to fight at all." She turned back to the council. "I'm proposing a solo descent. 1 person, no weapons, approaching slowly with non-threatening behavior. The same protocols we developed on Earth for approaching wolves, elephants, and other apex predators." The room exploded with noise. Quiller was shouting about suicide. Another researcher called her insane. Director Pell's mandibles clicked so fast they sounded like rain on metal. Only Bren stayed quiet. He watched Lena with those 4 eyes, and something in his expression changed. Not belief, but curiosity. "Enough," Pell raised a limb and the room went silent. "Dr. Ward, your theory is interesting, but I cannot authorize a landing. The quarantine stands." Lena wanted to argue, but she saw the fear in Pell's eyes hidden behind his hard shell. He had lost people to that planet. He carried their deaths like stones in his chest. "I understand," she said. The meeting ended. Researchers filed out, whispering to each other. Bren walked past Lena without speaking, but he paused at the door and looked back at her for a long moment. Lena returned to her quarters. She sat on her small bed and stared at the wall. 40 years of fear, 40 years of distance, and no one would let her prove them wrong. Then the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Lena ran toward the command center, pushing through crowds of panicking researchers. When she arrived, Director Pell was staring at a screen with his mandibles hanging open. "What happened?" Lena demanded. Quiller answered, his voice shaking. "A shuttle crashed on the planet's surface." Lena's blood went cold. Who was aboard? 3 researchers. My daughter Tira was one of them. The screen showed the crash site. A small shuttle lay broken among glowing trees, and moving through the forest around it, red eyes burning in the darkness, were shadow fangs. They're still alive, someone said. The life signs are stable. For now, Bren growled. Those things will find them within the hour. Pell's limbs were shaking. We cannot send a rescue team, the quarantine. Forget the quarantine, Quiller grabbed Pell with all 4 arms. My daughter is down there. Lena stepped forward. Let me go. Everyone turned to look at her. I know how to approach them, she continued. I know what triggers their aggression. Give me one chance. Bren snorted. You'll die before you reach the crash site. Maybe, Lena said, but those 3 people definitely die if we do nothing. Silence filled the room. Quiller was crying, thick blue tears running down his face. Director Pell looked from the screen to Lena, his eyes full of fear and desperate hope. Finally, he nodded. One chance, one shuttle, no weapons. Bren stepped forward. I'm going with her. Lena raised an eyebrow. You think I'm crazy? I do, Bren said. But if you're right, I want to see it myself. And if you're wrong, someone should be there to bring back your body. It wasn't exactly a vote of confidence, but Lena would take it. 30 minutes later, they were falling toward the planet's surface. The orange clouds swallowed their shuttle like a hungry mouth. Below them, the forest glowed with soft light, and somewhere in that light, 3 people waited for rescue. And so did the shadow fangs. Lena checked her empty holster one more time. No weapons, no armor, just her knowledge, her training, and a theory that might be completely wrong. Ready? Bren asked. No, Lena admitted, but that's never stopped me before. The shuttle touched down, and the hatch opened into darkness. The forest breathed around them. Every tree pulsed with soft blue light, and strange sounds echoed through the darkness. Lena stepped off the shuttle ramp and felt the ground give slightly under her boots. The air smelled like copper and flowers. Bren followed her, his hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Old habits. He scanned the trees with all 4 eyes, every muscle in his body tight with tension. The crash site is 2 kilometers northeast, he whispered. We should move fast. No, Lena kept her voice calm. We move slow, we stay visible, we make no sudden movements. That's insane. Every second we waste is a second we're not threatening them. Lena turned to face him. Trust me, please. Bren stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded just once. They walked. The forest seemed to watch them, leaves turning toward their footsteps, strange insects buzzing in the canopy above. Lena kept her hands open at her sides. She breathed slowly. She thought about wolves. On Earth, she had spent years studying predators. She knew how they thought, how they tested threats. A wolf didn't attack blindly. It watched, it waited, it gave warnings before it struck. The shadow fangs would be the same. She saw the first one after 10 minutes. It stood between 2 glowing trees, a mountain of dark fur and gleaming spines. Its eyes burned red in the blue light of the forest. It was watching them. Bren stopped breathing. His hand moved toward his belt again, finding nothing. Don't look directly at it, Lena murmured. Predators see direct eye contact as a challenge. What do I do? Stay still, let me handle this. Lena took a slow step forward. The shadow fang's spines rose slightly, venom dripping from their tips. She stopped and lowered herself to the ground, crouching until she was half its height. She looked at the dirt, not at the creature, not anywhere threatening. Seconds passed, minutes. The forest was silent except for the beating of Lena's heart. Then the shadow fang moved. It walked toward her, each step shaking the ground slightly. Lena forced herself to stay still. Every instinct screamed at her to run. She ignored them all. The creature stopped 1 meter away. She could feel its breath on her hair, hot and damp. It smelled like blood and earth and something strangely sweet. Slowly, Lena extended her hand, palm up, open, harmless. The Shadowfang lowered its massive head. Its nose touched her palm, sniffing, learning her scent, understanding that she meant no harm. And then it sat down. Bren made a small sound behind her, something between a gasp and a laugh. Lena looked up at the creature. Its spines had lowered, lying flat against its back. Its eyes were still red, but they no longer seemed angry, just curious. "Hello," she said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The Shadowfang rumbled deep in its chest. It sounded almost like a purr. More shapes emerged from the trees, 2 more Shadowfangs, then 3, then 5. They formed a circle around Lena and Bren, but there was no aggression in their movements. They were watching, yes, but not hunting. Lena stood slowly. "They know we're not a threat," she said to Bren. "They can tell." How? Bren's voice was shaking. "Body language, scent, behavior, the same way any predator judges prey." Lena smiled slightly. "Except we're not acting like prey, we're acting like friends." The first Shadowfang turned and began walking deeper into the forest. It paused after a few steps and looked back at Lena. "It wants us to follow," she realized. "Follow it where?" "I think I know." Lena started walking after the creature. "Come on." They moved through the glowing forest, surrounded by Shadowfangs. Bren walked close to Lena, his eyes never stopping there. Nervous scan, but the creatures ignored him. They seemed focused on Lena, on this strange, small being who walked among them without fear. After 15 minutes, they reached a clearing. The crashed shuttle lay in the center, broken and smoking, and standing near its hull, protected by a ring of Shadowfangs, were 3 figures. "Tira," Lena called out. A young Velorian stumbled forward. She had blue skin like her father and a gash on her forehead that had stopped bleeding. Her forearms were wrapped around herself, shaking. "Who are you?" Tira gasped. "How did you?" "The creatures just stopped attacking. They started protecting us." Lena looked at the Shadowfangs guarding the survivors. They sat calmly, watching the scene with those red eyes. "What happened when you crashed?" "I don't know. The shuttle lost power. We came down hard." Tira pointed at the wreckage. "There was a Shadowfang cub trapped under some metal. I pulled it free. I don't know why, I just did." Of course, Lena almost laughed. The universal language of kindness. Even on an alien world, among the deadliest creatures in the galaxy, it worked the same way. "Help a child, and the parents will protect you." "Let's get you home," Lena said. As they prepared to leave, the first Shadowfang approached Lena one more time. It dropped something at her feet. A small stone, smooth and worn, with strange symbols carved into its surface. "A gift." Lena picked it up and looked into those red eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. The creature rumbled again. Then it turned and vanished into the glowing forest, its pack following behind. Bren stood beside her, staring at the stone in her hands. "Your people are strange," he said finally. Lena smiled. "We just learned something a long time ago. You don't survive by fighting everything. You survive by understanding it." She tucked the stone into her pocket and led the survivors toward the shuttle. The Shadowfangs watched them go, and for the first time in 40 years, they did not attack. Quiller was waiting at the airlock when the shuttle docked. He pushed through the crowd of researchers and grabbed his daughter with all 4 arms, holding her so tight that Tira gasped for breath. "I thought I lost you," he whispered. "I thought you were gone." Tira hugged him back. "I'm okay, Father, I'm okay." Director Pell watched from a distance, his mandibles clicking nervously. Other researchers crowded around the survivors, asking questions, checking injuries, but their eyes kept drifting to Lena. She walked off the shuttle like nothing unusual had happened, like she hadn't just done the impossible. Bren followed her. He moved differently now. The tension in his muscles was gone. He looked at Lena with something new in his 4 eyes, something like respect. "How?" Pell demanded. "The recordings show you walking through Shadowfang territory. They surrounded you. They should have killed you." "They're not mindless killers," Lena said. "They never were. Every attack was defense. They were protecting their young." "Impossible." Our scientists studied them for centuries. Your scientists studied them from orbit. Lena held up the carved stone the Shadowfang had given her. I walked among them, I listened, I paid attention. Quiller released his daughter and turned to Lena. His yellow eyes were wet with tears. You saved her life, you saved all of them. Actually, the Shadowfang saved them. Lena nodded at Tira. Your daughter helped a trapped cub. The pack protected her in return. Tira stepped forward. It's true, the cub was hurt and scared. I couldn't leave it there. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing, even if no one wanted to say it. Kindness, that was all it took. Not weapons, not armor, not centuries of scientific study from safe distances, just simple kindness. Director Pell's mandibles stopped clicking. He stared at the carved stone in Lena's hand. What is that? He asked. A gift, the Alpha gave it to me. Lena turned the stone over, studying the strange symbols. I think it's from their caves, deep underground where they raise their young. They gave you something from their sacred spaces. They trust me, Lena looked at Pell. They trust us, or they could if we let them. The words hung in the air. Pell turned away, his shell reflecting the station lights. Later that night, Lena sat in her quarters with Bren. He had brought a bottle of something strong and purple, a Toraki drink that made her eyes water when she smelled it. My people would never believe this, Bren said. He poured 2 glasses and handed one to Lena. We conquered our homeworld by killing everything dangerous, every predator, every threat. We burned them out, hunted them down, destroyed them completely. And now, Bren stared into his glass. Now our world is quiet, safe, and empty. He drank deep. We forgot what it means to share a planet with something stronger than us. Humans almost made that mistake too. Lena sipped the purple liquid. It burned going down. We killed so many species, drove them to extinction, but eventually we learned. Learned what? That the world is better with wolves in it, with lions, with sharks and eagles and all the creatures we used to fear. Lena set down her glass. They're not our enemies, they're our neighbors, and the best way to survive together is to understand each other. Bren was quiet for a long time. Then he raised his glass. To neighbors, he said. Lena smiled and raised her own. To neighbors. They drank together as the stars spun slowly outside the window. In the morning, Lena woke to urgent messages on her screen. The Galactic Science Council had seen the recordings. They wanted to speak with her immediately. She dressed quickly and walked to the communications center. Director Pell was already there, standing before a massive screen. On it, 2 figures looked down at them. The first was Counselor Yev, an elderly Morvathi with a cracked shell and suspicious eyes. The second was High Scholar Dirix, chief scientist of the council, whose body seemed to be made of pure light. Dr. Ward, Dirix said. His voice echoed strangely. Your footage is remarkable. In 300 years, no one has achieved what you did in a single day. Thank you. Yev leaned forward. It is not a compliment, it is a concern. Lena felt a chill run down her spine. The Shadowfangs are classified as galactic threats, Yev continued. 17 species have tried to contact them. 17 species have failed. And now a human from a world we barely know succeeds where everyone else has died. I didn't use weapons or force, I used patience. That makes it worse. Yev's old eyes narrowed. If humans can befriend the Shadowfangs, what else can you befriend? What other monsters will listen to you? Lena understood then. The council wasn't amazed by what she had done. They were afraid of it. Humans are dangerous, Yev said. Not because you're strong, because you make friends with things that terrify everyone else, and that makes you more powerful than any weapon. The screen went dark. Lena stood alone in the communications center, feeling the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. She had opened a door. Now she had to see what was on the other side. 3 days passed in. Uncomfortable silence. The station felt different now. Researchers whispered when Lena walked by. Some looked at her with hope, others with fear. Bren stayed close. He had appointed himself her protector, though she hadn't asked. The old warrior seemed to feel he owed her something. Maybe he did. On the fourth day, Lena was called to another meeting with the council. This time, Director Pell looked nervous. Quiller stood beside him, his four arms folded tight. High Scholar Dirix appeared on the screen again. His body of light pulsed gently as he spoke. Dr. Ward, the council has reached a decision. Lena waited. We are creating a new program, the Human Contact Initiative. You will be allowed to attempt communication with other quarantined species under strict supervision. Relief flooded through her. Thank you, I won't let you down. There are conditions. Counselor Yev appeared beside Dirix, his cracked shell gleaming. Any sign that humans are weaponizing these relationships and the program ends. Any attempt to use these creatures against the council and your species will face consequences. We're not trying to build an army, Lena said. We just want to understand. So you say, Yev's eyes were cold, we will be watching. The screen went dark. Quiller let out a breath he had been holding. That went better than I expected, he admitted. Did it? Lena stared at the empty screen. They're scared of us, scared of what we might become. Bren stepped forward. They should be scared, not of you, of what will happen if they try to stop you. Lena shook her head. That's exactly the wrong way to think about it. Fear leads to conflict. We need to show them that understanding is better than war. That night she couldn't sleep. She walked through the station's observation deck, watching the planet spin below. The glowing forests, the hidden caves. Somewhere down there, Shadowfangs were sleeping beside their cubs, dreaming whatever dreams such creatures had. A soft beep interrupted her thoughts, a message on her personal screen. She opened it. The words made her blood run cold. They're going to destroy everything you've built. The council is divided, but some want the Shadowfangs dead. Permanently. Check the cargo manifest for Shuttle Bay 7. You have 12 hours. No signature, no sender information. Lena Rand. Shuttle Bay 7 was on the far side of the station, used for equipment storage. She found it. Locked, but her research credentials got her inside. The bay was dark. She used her screen's light to search the containers. Most held standard supplies, food, medicine, repair parts. Then she found it. A large metal case, unmarked, hidden behind other cargo. She forced it open and stared at the contents. Canisters, dozens of them, filled with a thick yellow liquid. She scanned the chemical signature and felt sick. Neural disruptor, a compound that drove animals into uncontrollable rage. One canister could poison a water supply for months. Someone was planning to release this on the planet. The Shadowfangs would go mad. They would attack everything, including each other. And when they did, the council would have no choice but to authorize their destruction. All that progress, all that trust, gone in an instant. Lena contacted Bren immediately. He arrived within minutes, his gray face dark with anger. Who did this? I don't know, but they planned it carefully. This looks like council-level access. Yev, Bren's hands curled into fists. That old fool would rather see everything burn than accept change. We need proof, and we need to stop the release. Bren nodded. I'll find who's involved, you warned the pack. The pack? You said you could communicate with them, make them understand danger. Bren looked at her with those four steady eyes. If you can't, they'll die, all of them. Lena grabbed a protective suit and headed for the shuttle bay. She had 12 hours, maybe less. The descent felt longer this time. The orange clouds seemed thicker, darker. When she landed at the edge of Shadowfang territory, the forest was quiet, too quiet. She walked into the trees, hands open, calling out softly. Nothing moved. The blue glow of the plants seemed dimmer than before. Then she saw red eyes in the darkness. The alpha emerged slowly. Its spines were raised, not in threat, but in warning. Something was wrong, it could sense it. Lena knelt down. She showed the alpha the canister she had brought as evidence. She mimed drinking, then clutching her head in pain. She pointed at the sky at the station, then made a cutting motion across her throat. Danger from above, death coming. The Alpha watched her with those ancient eyes. It rumbled deep in its chest. Then it turned and bellowed into the forest. More Shadowfangs appeared, dozens of them, the whole pack emerging from the trees like shadows taking form. The Alpha looked at Lena and made a gesture she understood. Follow. They moved deeper into the forest toward the hidden caves, the sacred places where the young were raised, the places no outsider had ever seen. Until now, the Alpha was trusting her, despite everything, despite the danger. Lena followed the pack into the darkness, praying she could save them all. The caves stretched deep beneath the mountains. Lena followed the Alpha through tunnels carved by centuries of claws, passing chambers where Shadowfang cubs slept in piles of warm fur. The air grew thick and safe. Above her, on the station, Bren was fighting his own battle. He had traced the conspiracy to 3 researchers loyal to Counselor Yev. They moved through Shuttle Bay 7, preparing to load the canisters into a deployment drone. 1 release, 1 poison water source, and the Shadowfangs would tear themselves apart. Bren stepped out of the shadows. Going somewhere. The researchers spun around. One reached for a weapon. Bren was faster. He had fought in wars across 12 systems. These were scientists, not soldiers. The fight was brief. 2 went down in seconds. The 3rd tried to run. Quiller blocked the exit. His forearms grabbed the researcher and slammed him against the wall. My daughter almost died on that planet, Quiller said quietly. Those creatures saved her life, and you would destroy them for politics. More footsteps echoed through the bay. Tira appeared with other researchers, ones who had watched the recordings, who had seen what Lena achieved. They formed a wall behind Quiller. This is treason, the pinned researcher gasped. Counselor Yev authorized this operation. Counselor Yev doesn't speak for the whole council, Bren replied. He activated his communicator. Director Pell, are you receiving this? Pell's voice crackled through. Every word. High Scholar Dirix is here with me. We're recording everything. On the council's flagship, Yev watched the footage with growing horror. His conspiracy was exposed. His agents were captured. And on the planet below, the creatures he wanted to destroy were hiding safely in caves, protected by a human. Dirix turned to face the old counselor. You acted without authorization. You planned mass extinction to further your political agenda. The being of light seemed to grow brighter. The council votes to remove you from your position, effective immediately. Yev said nothing. There was nothing to say. Deep in the caves, Lena felt the rumble of the Alpha's voice. It seemed to understand that the danger was passing. The pack relaxed around her, cubs tumbling over each other in play. A young Shadowfang approached Lena. It was barely the size of a large dog, its spine still soft and harmless. It bumped its head against her hand, curious about this strange creature that walked with them. Lena scratched behind its ears. The cub made a sound almost like a purr. You're safe now, she whispered, all of you. The Alpha settled beside her, its massive body warm against the cave's cool air. It watched her with those red eyes, and Lena saw something in them. Not just tolerance, not just trust. Gratitude. She stayed with the pack until dawn. Then she climbed back to the surface and found her shuttle waiting. The ride back to the station felt different, lighter. The orange clouds parted to reveal stars, and among them the bright dot of other worlds, other creatures, other beings who might respond to patience and kindness. When she docked at Horizon 7, a crowd was waiting. Director Pell stood at the front, his mandibles twitching, Quiller and Tira, researchers from a dozen species, and Bren, bruised but smiling with all 4 eyes. It's over, Bren said. Yev's finished. His agents are in custody. The council has officially approved the Human Contact Initiative. Lena nodded slowly. Good, that's good. But she didn't feel triumphant. She felt tired and sad. They were so afraid, she said. Yev and the others, they were so scared of what the Shadowfangs represented, what we represented. Change is frightening, Pell said quietly. For some, it is easier to destroy than to adapt. That's why we have to keep trying. Lena looked at the planet spinning below. We have to show them that understanding is possible, that cooperation is better than conflict, that the universe is big enough for all of us. Tira stepped forward. I want to help the cub I saved. I felt something when I freed it, a connection. So did I, another researcher said. And I, said another. Voices echoed through the crowd. Species that had spent centuries afraid of the Shadowfangs, now willing to learn, to change. Bren stood beside Lena, watching. You started something, he said. I don't know where it ends. Hopefully it doesn't end. Lena reached into her pocket and pulled out the carved stone. Hopefully it grows. Until the whole galaxy understands what we've learned. And what's that? Lena smiled. The same smile she had worn in the forest, surrounded by creatures that could have killed her with a single strike. That the most dangerous things in the universe, she said. Sometimes they just need someone to understand them. The Alpha's gift felt warm in her hand, a promise, a beginning. Below them in the glowing forests of a world called Deadly, Shadowfang packs raised their voices in a song that echoed through the night. Not a hunting cry, not a warning. A welcome. And in the station above, for the first time in centuries, the scientists of a dozen worlds listened without fear. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had shown them the way.